First of all, how embarrassing
Kay.
was last night?
Well, I would say it was a shaming experience. I mean, I look at it from what Britain projects to the world, and to see the government in a shambles, the mother of parliaments in that chaos. What an awful spectacle that sends to the world. I mean, we have a government that's in office, but not really in power anymore. You can feel authority draining away from them. That's bad for this country. It's bad for Britain in the world.
Who should accept responsibility for what happened yesterday?
Well, there's one person at the top of the government whose responsibility it is to manage the business of the government in Parliament, as well as towards the country, and that's the Prime Minister. The buck stops with the Prime Minister, and she has to be held responsible for those scenes.
And what sort of responsibility might that take? What might that look like, do you think?
Well, luckily, I'm not a politician, and I'm not in the Conservative Party, but it's down to Conservative MPs now to work out. A British Prime Minister with a strong majority in the House of Commons has enormous power. But if she doesn't have a stable majority and authority over her MPs and a capacity to manage her business in the House of Commons, I mean, that is a fundamentally weak situation. And we have a dangerous world out there, and people want Britain to be an active player in combating Russia and Ukraine, on China and so on. At the moment, we don't have a Prime Minister with any authority internationally or domestically.
How much of a problem, I know you're not a politician, but you have been within the heart of government previously. How much of a problem is it when a politician who had high office is sacked, which is what happened? You know, we've seen resignation letters. We know when politicians have resigned and when they've been forced to resign, then finds themselves on the back benches. I remember when Mrs Thatcher did that to one of her senior cabinet members, and the resignation speech afterwards basically did for her.
Yes, I think you may be thinking of Geoffrey Howe.
I am.
And certainly it was a pretty devastating speech, yes. Well, when a Prime Minister forces out a senior member of the government, whether it's a former Chancellor or former Home Secretary, that creates someone with a grievance against the Prime Minister. They may decide to settle down and be loyal backbenchers, or they may not. In the case of Suella Braverman, the oddity really is that this was not a very major misdemeanor. Sending an early draft of a ministerial statement to Parliament was not a security breach. If you like, it was a parking ticket offence rather than a dangerous driving charge. And yet she was forced out and then unleashed that tirade of anger against the Prime Minister. So it looks to me like the Prime Minister has created another focus of dissent on the backbenches.
So it wasn't really what she did. It was because somebody in one of these two offices behind me wanted her out.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks to me more like a pretext, either for the Prime Minister to push her out or for her to jump before she was pushed, I don't know which, rather than the root cause. And Kay, what I'm thinking of this morning is, thank goodness for our wonderful professional civil service, because as the wheels come off the government, we have a civil service which is keeping the country going day by day, men and women working extremely hard. They can do the day by day running the country. They can't make plans and policies for the future, and that's what we need.
I did want to ask you about the civil service as well, because it is something that you know an awful lot about. What's it like for them day to day at the moment when they don't know who is going to be the head of the ministry? They don't even know whether we're going to have the same Prime Minister by the end of the day.
Well, it's incredibly difficult, of course, because civil servants need prime ministers and ministers to set the direction, to take the policy decisions which they can then implement. But if the government are basically absent on parade as they run round in smaller and smaller circles, day by day, civil servants will get on with the job of running the country, of doing what is necessary within the policy guidelines already set. They'll do that very professionally. But it is extremely difficult to have this level of chaos and uncertainty from one day to the next. And decisions that need to be made for the future urgently, given the economic crisis we have, will not be being made. So they can do the day-by-day management, but they can't do much more than that. Thank goodness they are there to do that.
Are you in the business of predictions this morning, my lord?
I'm never really in the business of predictions. I mean, this government cannot last in this state. I mean, whether it's days or weeks, I don't know. But in the state of the world, in the state of the country, the crises we have, this kind of chaos cannot continue. And it's down to Tory MPs to sort it out. But really, we've got to put an end to this, get back to some kind of stability.
And how do we do that? Do we have yet another Prime Minister who has not been elected by the country, or are we heading towards an election, do you think?
I mean, all I can do is speak as an individual, and actually an individual that doesn't have a vote in general elections because I'm a Lord. But it feels to me like just another change of Prime Minister on the basis of what Conservative MPs would like does no longer feel very democratic, and any sense of a democratic mandate is getting more and more remote. So it seems to me normally that the Mother of Parliament should be setting an example to the world and putting an end to this kind of chaos by having a general election.
It's good to talk to you, my Lord. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Kay.